What's up? So, as life goes on, I oftentimes rack my brain about how we got to the point that we are at currently, culturally. Um, Specifically, thinking about people who were against, let's say, like gay marriage and things like that roughly 10 years ago. E, um, Even 15, just to be fully like in the old ways, because 10 years ago is when you start to see a change. But 15 years ago, the people who would be against gay marriage, that would actually include Barack Obama, even though obviously he's known as a very different person now. So I've thought a long time about what changes people in such a radical way on such a, I guess, reasonably taboo topic. And there isn't one correct answer because there are a lot of influencing and impacting factors. But, there is one point that Tim Pool, I will give it up to him. He is the main person who I have heard talking about this, is bringing up that was a very, it was essentially a catalyst to get us to where we are currently. And that is algorithms in social media. Because, I mean, people can say love is love and you want to let people do their own thing and happiness and, whatever people want to do is their prerogative. And that's cool, man. I mean, I think most people can respect that libertarian sensibility of being left to your own devices and so on and so forth. I think most people, I'm not saying most people feel that way because they understand, like myself, like I can, that sentiment appeals to me in a utopian society, but in reality, I know that there are not people who, given their own volition and full freedom, will make the best choices for themselves, which is why we have certain things and, so on and so forth. But I almost lost track of where I was going, but I know. Essentially, bringing it back to where I was talking about, the algorithm has been impacting people's choice or their acceptance of the new left ideologies, for lack of better term, just to group everything. And, if you really need, trans ideology, LGBTQ plus agenda. And really you can even throw critical race theory, a lot of these things into there. Why they become so popularized and radicalized in this day and age would be due to the algorithm. And the reason I got in depth about all the other things of why people do stuff is because I was trying to say you're not doing this just out of the plain kindness of your heart and letting people live and let live. That's one aspect of it, but it's being amplified and broadcast in such a way because this is incentivized language. But I don't want to come off being conspiratorial thinking or making it seem like this is some malevolent action by some shadow organization who is foreseeing and moving along this process. It's actually something that is occurring naturally, mostly, I think, because I'm pretty young and I can remember what it is like to be a kid and in school, in high school in 2009 through 2012, and seeing the shift of us literally I mean, in middle school and everything like that, saying the hard F word was no problem. That was the funniest thing in the world to everybody. It was, you constantly heard that being said. Of course, the teacher, the teachers did not like that or anything, but you see that. Obviously, you would see it in comedy specials on television, in media, and things like that. And we see less and less. It gets, it's not acceptable to speak in that way against gay people, and we see more and more inclusion or exposure to trans people. We see the Caitlyn Jenners, and they win the Woman of the Year, and we see a lot of change grow over that time. A lot of that was making people say, you started off back in the beginning of all of that saying, okay, yeah, sure. I really don't care what gay people do with each other, because what influence does that have with me if I'm not gay? Totally fine. Don't care about any of that. Okay. People who have a pro LGBTQ agenda, of course, are posting against hate, like most civil rights groups would. And that, since it is at the base, positive message, would get pushed out, right? Like, of course, back in the day, I'd love to show support to my gay friends or whatever, to let them know that you're not in a world where you're unsafe. When I was a young teenager, growing up in a world, young and naive, and seeing and hearing about stories of things that would happen to these people, having a heart, having empathy, of course, you would like and share, whatever posts pro LGBT, ally, we're here for you guys. And I support my gay friends. By no means am I saying this that I've changed that. But hear me out now. So back then we're all gung-ho about that. So we share that kind of stuff. Share it and share it and share it. That stuff gets shared a lot because a lot of people felt that way back then. When the algorithm gets introduced, and we know how algorithms work, we don't know how specific ones work, the ins and outs completely, but we know that they essentially take generally acceptable, safe, agreeable, and positive content that's likely to be shared, likely to be enjoyed, and make more people positively impacted. You will see that get shared, of course, more often than more unique opinions and thoughts, sentiments, memes, whatever. So we see all that shared. It was a lot of that. But the algorithm doesn't know how to handle that. And obviously the algorithm combines a lot of different things that it thinks are popular in ways that it thinks like fusing them is going to make it even more popular and viral content, right? And that is how it delves it out to us. So we'll have our personalized stuff, meaning that I have stuff involving skateboarding, shoes, fashion, a lot of stuff that I'm into in politics. And then we'll have universally promoted things to us that really don't have anything to do with us, but it's such a general shot in the dark that humans are interested in these kind of things that the algorithm thinks that we're going to be into it. And you put that in a pot and you boil it and you boil it and you refine that over and over and over again. And what you have is not an accurate representation of what people in general want to see, but you have an accurate representation of the things that people have thought were important to have other people see when it comes to social media. Because a lot of people share their thoughts on social media, one, to express themselves, but you're doing it in a visual and public forum because you want other people to see it. And a lot of people, or should I say, people are all influenced at different levels as far as to how much they want to fit in. Everybody experiences it, including weirdos like myself. We still want to fit in to some degree, somewhere on this planet. And that makes us act in the ways that we do. And social media is a space where there are these monolithic things That if you go against your, I mean, you know what we've all been going back and forth about. And like I was saying, Tim Pool, breaks down specifically how the algorithm can create a Dylan Mulvaney based off of a person who wants to be famous enough and what he thinks and what they think society wants to see versus the reality, which is the Bud Light, obviously, the sales dropping and things like that. But I've been really racking my brain, about it, and it just really it does make sense, and that is the most sensible answer as to how we got here in totality. And it's funny because if this would have happened a decade earlier, and everything else would be exactly the same way, which I know is impossible to actually map out, but I'm just saying, follow me along. If everything else was the same, and we got social media 10 years early, like the internet, Facebook's, all those kind of things, 10 years earlier, we would probably have America and nationalism in place, and honestly, probably anti-Islam, anti-Muslim sentiments in place of those things, because those were the things that were super duper popular at that time. From 2000, obviously 2001 onward was very, very pro-American, and we gradually, surely went through all of the war that we did. We were very anti that. And that's when we got very civil rightsy, you see? Because we, went through everything that we did in the Middle East during my childhood and youth. We were not with the war. We had heard about the world wars. We heard about Nam. We heard about, everything that's going on in the Middle East, or that was at the time, and we just wanted no part of that as kids. I remember that. But that's what pushed us to this more friendly, softer, accepting, which is good. A lot of, not soft, but friendly. Okay. Good. What you call it? Yeah, like good vibes. It's good to be positive, but we have to make sure that we are in control of what is good for humanity, not machine learning, because that's very dangerous. And it's interesting to see and to think about that's been impacted. I mean, if you agree with me, if you think I'm just shooting in the dark and like nothing I've said makes any sense, hey, I could definitely take other perspectives into consideration. This is just something that I've noticed, and I've got limited information. This is something that I'm shooting at the dark. Like I said, Tim Pool has really kind of like talked about how that Dylan Mulvaney was created by an algorithm, but taking it to the place that I'm taking it to is pretty much nothing that I've discussed beyond this video, actually. So probably going to talk with a few people whose opinion I respect in conversation about it if it's able to come up. But I did want to go ahead and record this because I was actually about to type this out, but I felt like it would be easier to convey the message spoken. So I wanted to record myself with this thought before it completely got away from me. But it's something that I've been, ever since I heard Tim talk about, his hypothesis on why people would think that Dylan Mulvaney would be successful, but he failed as a marketing tool. It's kind of spun me through this loop as to where I've been like refining this idea on that. So let me know what you think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you not know what I'm talking about? Or do I not know what I'm talking about? I'd be interested to know.